What I was saying is that before I got interrupted by our glorious technology before us, thank you, Zoom and Apple. Anyways, I was talking about Jordan Peterson and some criticisms that people were levying upon him. And I was saying I didn't want to give too much credit to specific individuals because I don't think those people should, get, not to pull a Charles Sheldon, if you will, or finances. Anyways, but they were criticizing him. Like someone pulled up a screenshot of him where he had he was obviously streaming or something, and his room was
dirty. Yeah, clean your room.
Yeah, I think
you got a drug problem.
Do you not like that? I mean, you don't like that little maxim, if you will.
It's okay. It's fine. Jordan Peterson is a net positive, I feel, in many, many ways. And I think
am I going to hear some gripes?
No, I'm griping about people overreacting mostly.
Okay.
But I mean, okay, I'm not even going to call it a criticism. Okay. A lot of what Jordan Peterson says is something that young men would get if they had a father.
Mm-hmm.
This is some old wisdom. And I brought up Jonathan Haidt before. I don't know if you've ever read The Happiness Hypothesis.
I haven't read The Happiness Hypothesis, but I'm very familiar with Jonathan Haidt. I think he's that's a guy that needs way more attention, honestly.
Okay, well, the premise of the happiness hypothesis is that we're using fMRIs and all this new pop psychology and everything else that is doing nothing more than proving shit that was written 2,000 years ago in the Bible. And other ancient texts and Buddhism, everything else. So he goes through all these modern brilliant new things we're discovering about how to treat people, and then our mind reacts and it proves out. Well, all it does is just repeat the same shit that's already out there. So right. I'm saying, and this is not a criticism directly of Jordan Peterson, it's just why I like him, but I prefer him in interviews. His book is kind of whatever, I could take it or leave it in a lot of ways.
Right.
It's a matter of, I have heard this my whole life. I did have a father. I did have an environment where I did get taught these old-fashioned lessons. They're good lessons. They're timeless lessons. And I see Jordan Peterson as being emblematic of someone that especially young men can look up to for things like clean your room. Guess how often I heard clean your room growing up? Guess how often I actually clean my damn room?
Right.
Anyway,
right.
I heard the message, didn't do it, but there is wisdom there. Correct. I agree with it. And I do find it funny when we'll get into the fallacies again, because that's an ad hominem. Obviously, it's like, look at him. He says clean your room, but he's got a dirty room. And it's like, okay,
he's
so
human.
what?
He's human.
So what? Does that mean his message is wrong? Like, if I go up to a heroin addict and they say, kid, whatever you do, don't do drugs, man. It's terrible for you. Well, look at you. You're using heroin. It's like, well, okay, but does that mean their message is wrong?
Correct.
That you shouldn't do drugs.
I could be a heroin addict.
Careful now.
Yeah. I could very well be a heroin addict, but I could still have the amount of awareness to say, listen, this is actually an incredibly horrible habit, because heroin, I think, is the most addictive drug I think out there, if not one of the most.
Might be worse.
Although benzos are pretty bad. Yeah. Which is what, to his credit, it looks like he's come out of the abyss from that one, which is pretty astounding. Yeah. I mean, who knows what's actually happened behind closed doors with him, in all honesty, in all fairness, but at the same time, it looks like he's making an effort. He appears to be clean. I think I'll be honest. I think his diet might have something to do with it too. At least that's just an assumption, I guess. Just because I've recognized that, changing your diet can definitely be of good use to you as a human being in terms of.
But he's on the same diet he's been on for 5 years. So
yeah, right.
He actually was doing the carnivore thing before all that.
Right. No, of course. I remember him hearing that recently, but anyways, yeah, I think the messaging with, for example, or when people just go after and criticize clean your room, I think that just there's nothing. What's the counter to that? And I think, just trying to remember what I was saying right now, but basically the whole heroin addict, right? The heroin addict, right? Just because they say a heroin addict says, hey, don't do this, doesn't mean that he's actually not right. Just or yeah, he might be a hypocrite, but it could very well be like he's done everything he can to try to get off heroin, but he can't.
Yeah,
at
he could
this
also
point.
just be giving you guidance of
Yeah,
you
don't be
don't
like
want
me.
to be like me. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't suffer like me. I mean, I just
Exactly.
interviewed an ecstasy kingpin this morning.
Oh wow.
And I mean, this guy was, I forgot his sentence was 900 years, and then it got, down to like 9 or whatever it was. But he ran the whole ecstasy pipeline throughout Arizona until Sammy the Bull Gravano moved in, and there was a war, and SWAT hit his door. Anyway, this
That's
guy,
insane.
and he's a podcaster, a YouTube channel. Sean Atwood has 700,000, about 700,000 subscribers.
Oh
And
geez, wow, good for him.
he did his time. He's forever banned from the United States, back in England, and he goes around. He talks to schools all the time too, in between. So
Interesting.
he will tell you drugs are bad,
Right.
and you know what? He's actually kind of an authority on
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
it.
He's seen what it's done to people. That's that's really fascinating. And it's to your point. We always hear these messages growing up, and we tend to be like dismiss them. Or it's easy to be dismissive. I think is what I mean to say, like with parents and stuff like that. And I think what I've learned over time with, in
Now,
particular,
on the flip side, I'm gonna argue against myself, because I like
Go
to
ahead.
do that.
Go ahead.
There's the flip side too, where you're virtue signaling, and I can't stand that shit. So if you're Harrison Ford telling people to care about the environment and flying your private jet, screw you.
Right.
So a heroin addict who's saying, from a living experience, don't do this, kids, is one thing. Somebody else who is telling everybody to do this action, or to be virtuous, or whatever, and getting brownie points for telling and lecturing everyone, and meanwhile does whatever the hell they want, that's another. So I will say that there are different, again, two things can be true at once.
That's a good call out. Yeah.